Right. Fambulem, I bring greetings to Una. Warm greetings as usual from the TNN TV media empire. Today, na Thursday, the 11th of August 2022. Me where they talk to Una. My name Prince Emil Koma. This particular broadcast is a come na the background of the loss of lives and some development in our country as a consequence of a protest, which turned to a riot and became deadly. And it is with a heavy heart that I come for make this broadcast. Of course, I'm not alone. I get a guest where we go introduce at some point in this program. But a responsible platform where something of this kind happen, it is imperative on we part for come and talk about at least waiting at the opinion of the platform, waiting at the opinion of guest them way we go bring come, waiting precipitate the kind guest who they bring come. It really matter. Fambulem, waiting happened on yesterday. It's not really strange. It's not really novel. It's not new. And neither was it unexpected. It was rather expected. I mean, this is nothing what we don't talk about in the media. And we are not making up stories because the records are there. We are content creators. The records are there. People can go back and check. But of course, that is true because we get accusations of collaboration. We get accusation of inciting, which is not true. Just talking about the issue alone does not make you to be a collaborator, does not make you to be one inciting. Rather, we are warning of what is to come. So now, all that thing that we will only talk about for the best part of 4 years, of course, now it culminate into waiting happen on the 10th and the 11th. The 11th, of course, went on riotous and became deadly, in which there was loss of lives. And the loss of lives, we want for take 1 minute na this platform, along with Una we don't join, and we ask Una for share this broadcast. It's very important because we're going to be talking about issues leading up to waiting happen. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that the situation or the country been there na a tinderbox. And when they wait for the spark, just the catalyst, just something where they make them for let it happen. I mean, it be the simmer bottom. So I mean by this is not new. This is not strange. Neither does it take a rocket scientist for figure out what was to come and what eventually happened on the 11th. But we might probably take a different view, and the different view is we want for join them one the way they think critically. Hair splitting analysis. We go take we left, right, and center, but we put evidence right in the middle. We give we sound opinion backed by the circumstances itself, both leading up to the event and after the event. And if una can join me for see what we extrapolate from this evidence we will submit, it probably go give we the answers. And this is not the end. Even as we speak, there is problem in the country. Of course, you don't expect such a massive issue will rock the country. It rock the country for go away in a short period of time. But like I say again, whilst we develop the number, family owner join me in observing a minute of silence for the one that we lost their lives on the 11th of August, which was just yesterday. The blood of those that died is still fresh on the streets of Freetown. The dead, they not hardly don't pick them up yet, neither buried, but yet the blame game don't begin, which is pathetic as a nation who was supposed to unite around something so we all mourn together. But like I say, 1 minute in observance, 1 minute silence in observance of the dead. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 1 minute, please. Right. I thank Una very much. Because one thing, of course, there will be, maybe, might be foreign friends, they watch this program along with us. But it is necessary for that 1 minute silence where we pay to the dead, because every blood of every Sierra Leonean blood, it really does matter. Every Sierra Leonean blood, it really, really matters. So we drip boku blood yesterday of Sierra Leoneans from all shape or kind. It's not only one political party or probably some of the people that will even die. Not even belong to a political party. Not even belong to a political party. But like I can always try for say common denominator wise, they were all just Sierra Leoneans. We felt some anger towards the system. We felt some anger towards what was happening. Because after all, like I say, there is a sense of despair. There is a sense of deep regret. There is a sense of frustration, and many more. People have become despondent, and the lethargy of we politicians, we lawmakers, they're all kind of responsible to the march to this thing, because this thing should have been addressed some time ago. Some time ago. Make I take a quick break from this one. And as I say, today, Famulem, now the 11th of August 2022. I'm going to introduce my guest shortly. But having developed the story so far, let me give you a chance for suck 'em in. This, now the TNN TV media empire, a friendly news outlet where we do split hair analysis, where now the hub of the conversation, where they take the opportunity for bring Sierra Leoneans from all walks of life. Yes, some not they come, we they ask them for come, they open, and we they use the public platform for extend invitations to all the political party them, all professional Sierra Leoneans them for come, not so we they talk for una questions now we can ask. So we give una the opportunity. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this now the TNN TV media empire. I am Prince Emil Kroma, coming to una live today with a special guest, well known na social media, where we go introduce shortly. Stay tuned. Okay, family, and like I've been say, this is not the TNN TV media empire, and my name once one Prince Emil Koma, and we can talk about the riots, the protest stroke riot, where happened in Sierra Leone yesterday, which led to the loss of several lives in the country. I want to say something quickly outside of this program, just quickly. So the last program we hold, which was on the leader of the opposition in our parliament, we Sierra Leoneans then forget the opportunity for have a conversation around. Of course, I will not address that. The thing I want to address is one of the guests who appeared on the platform, yeah, became really contentious. And that guest obviously I make and clear during the live program what the guest was invited for, because he tried to send a signal to people as if he was being muzzled, whereas there was arrangement on why he was brought into the program. Having said that, there were several people and we, of course, supporters of either the guest, which we have no problem with, or the subject matter of the conversation. And accusations of the host being biased and what have you. Look, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it straight. And not mean say because you take sides. I know they call them side. Now the best I can describe them as, just for give una the benefit of the doubt. Take sides as una describe them with one guest over the other because now you they moderate. I want let we get this clearly. If I get two guests, we already understand what the subject matter is, and we deal or trade with facts. And then one guest they talk something which is factually correct, where we all can point to. We get evidence we can point to. The information where the other guest they give is well sourced. It's out there. Not everybody will have gotten it, but it's well sourced. Why then, as a moderator, I wouldn't agree with them, and especially when the other guests they say something completely contrary, completely different. We now in they make a question or more. And when you not guest now somebody in program, as a matter of respect, you pause when the host want for talk. The host they send several signs. I can lift up my hand, I can butt in with some conjunction, some preposition, but these are all signals that hang on. But it became so contentious that it turned to some theory, some feisty sort of show. Where to me, nothing specifically wrong with that, other than the guest need for, instead of making the accusation as if una they both which I found really cheap and uncalled for, and we need to understand them as such that when you come to somebody in program, let the audience make the decision, and the audience they see, and not because I agree with one guest means say enough for question your side of the story. If that guest they talk something different after the show, everybody go come back and say, but the information what the other guest be give was correct. The other guest be give some information. In fact, he admits say he not even familiar with some of the information will be so popular. But having said that, I hope I don't clarify that with una one-sided talk and the reason why. Anyway, today we want to talk about the riot we happened in Sierra Leone. We come about as a consequence of a protest. We not be strange. It don't they boil down under for quite a while, and people in the ask, what you una get for say, what you una platform get for say. Apart from live broadcast, we do a lot of small writing them. We tweet a lot. And these are opinions that we are expressing out there as to we position. You see, again, with this title where we give, some people they come back again. You will always expect people for come back at you. Because American man say, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Again, understandable. But would they ask people them for way, if not questions would they ask, let's ask a question. Because sometimes it's a little bit, painful to be honest. The title on this program, even on the flyer, it says the tragedy of August 10th. Okay? An elite conspiracy. Something about that. Where we put the elite, some people and put elite and put CHERNOH in the mix. It became toxic for some people, and we already don't jump to some conclusion. That this is what is coming to do. In other words, be critical about government, which I find really amusing, because what's wrong with being critical about government? But the thing one notice is they fall short. They really, really fall short of understanding the title. The elite does not mean SLPP. The elite in Sierra Leone does not represent pauper. It's a combination of people, both the political class and the professional class. And we go agree say the political class and the professional class is made up of Sierra Leoneans from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all tribe. You see, these are some of the problems why we can sleepwalk into problems, because when you expect people them for really help, those them way probably might not understand, but with the help for feed into that narrative, say, well, this is the definition of one-sidedness per a topic where says mention something about elite conspiracy. The elite them, people are not immediately, some of course, say, well, this na SLPP, this na power part, this na blame game. No, it is not. This is why it is the benefit of such programs for explain. We take the time out, valuable time for explain. So hopefully we will bring with people along that this is not about a particular set of people. This is not about particular individual. This is about issues, thorny issues surrounding we country. I said the last time, we dey look at something we not the same. We all they look at something we not the same, and this something here now we country, Sierra Leone. But we look at from different angles, hence the difference. But I suppose say, even if not to all, but I suspect say not all, we want the better good, the greater good of the country. This is why we take time, valuable time, for talk about a country, not from the perspective of being selfish. I know some of us are selfish, some of us are looking for material gain, but there are others we not a material gain that they look for. It's just righteousness, if you like. It's just the truth. Speak the truth and it will set you free. Today, Fambul, very important. On a day where we suppose for the mourn, and we at this platform, the mourn for the loss of lives for we people. The way how we express this, now by bringing guests that were relevant to the conversation. And in this regard, I think I've said enough for introduce we guests, and the numbers don't develop more. If we can multiply 162, and the difference here is where they look at my screen. If I look at my other screen, of course, it's different, because we live stream the program simultaneously to YouTube and Facebook. So my total number is 169, which is all right, but we are asking you, it's not enough. Can we continue to share so other people and we can hear it? We don't say we get all man they watch this program. Some man they under disguise, boy they watch, but all the same, we welcome everybody. And at this point, I want to say we guest is none other but CHERNOH, Alpha Ember of the Africanist Press. CHERNOH, but once again, welcome to the program. And I'm sure say, you know the tire for tell Fambulema do and give them an intro for let them understand exactly where we are.
Yeah, thank you very much for bringing me on this show. And also I want to thank the platform, Then and Now Media, for holding this important conversation. Like you say, I also want to join you for express with condolences to the number of Sierra Leoneans who have lost family members as a consequence of yesterday's event, which was a very, very unfortunate event. And I think its description as a tragedy, a national tragedy, is appropriate. But how do we understand national tragedies? How do we understand the loss of Sierra Leonean lives, whether these individuals we lost members of the security sector or civilian population? Every life of a Sierra Leonean is important. It's very, very important. So I want to join you for maintain not just silence, but prayers, extend with prayers and words of peace to everybody, every Sierra Leonean who witnessed the violent events of yesterday and the deaths that accompanied those events. And my heart goes out to the mothers, fathers, wives, and children of those who have lost family members personally and directly, including police officers who were caught in the situation as well. We are all victims of politics of repression and corruption and injustice. We don't see my own for decades now. This has been the history of the country for the last 60 years. And we have to grapple with it and understand it. So thank you very much. May God give the people away on pass away, peace and good place in heaven and peaceful rest. May God able give comfort and also peace to their family members. It's a painful situation as a country for wake up and witness these terrible scenes of atrocious violence. No matter how we talk about it, we cannot sum it up correctly. But now we responsibility as well when situations like this happen for able to explain what in this mean and how we for understand as a country, how we can prevent these kind of situations, or what should have been done at least for minimize or reduce the possibilities of this kind of tragedy. And that, which is why I think this conversation is tremendously important, regardless of the sad nature of the events that we're talking about. But part of the responsibility of public voices now for not just help people understand, but for also diagnose the problem. Because right now, as you say, there is a lot of blame game. People blaming the police, people blaming the youth, government, opposition parties. But how we go understand this as a country and see we don't get too many tragedies. Remember Wellington not too long ago with the tanker incident, where uncountable number of people also died. And at the same time, the president was out of the country when that situation happened. So all of these unfortunate incidents, they keep growing. The numbers of deaths keep growing. The suffering is rising up. But the loss of lives has become too many from the last 4 years. The country is under siege. We are in a crisis, serious crisis. We have underlined that one, and our responsibility for bring a comprehensive analysis into this kind of situation. Because now national problems we don't talk about, we don't speculate, we don't see, we don't warn about. And now here they are. We are with them face to face. So we got to address them. Thank you very much for now.
Yeah, thank you very much. And once again, can I just add my voice to what you don't say, because it's indeed a tragedy, and it is a pathetic and sorrowful term, and especially during the last 4 years, the event leading to the loss of life, the tanker that you mentioned, where some people don't almost forget about. But there was a huge number of Sierra Leoneans who lost their lives at that other tragic event day. And then we see again a number of Sierra Leoneans just lost their life in a different circumstance again. But all said and done, like you see, it's like the country is under siege, and there is a deepening crisis in the country, and all of we see where they lead up to this. One more time, me profound on behalf of this platform, may profound and sincere and deepest condolences to the families of those who lost their lives on yesterday. And like you say again, we talk about every Sierra Leonean. So officers who were serving, who were doing their duty, were also caught up in that event, and they lost their lives, or they lost their life. As I know, for now, I think now one. We still count the numbers. We not get a clear cut. I not get a clear cut number yet. But of course, we express with condolences to every one of them and the Sierra Leonean people at large. Having said this, can I also use this opportunity, Cherno, for ask you, because people like you and others have been warning Sierra Leoneans, and I use the word deliberately, warning Sierra Leoneans of what is to come. So again, this is not new. If we been a look, if we eye them be open, the scales were off, the wax were off we ears, if we don't hear it, if we don't see what was coming. So tell we waiting lead up to this. How we arrive here. And again, this is not a question we don't ask the obtained time, but we can take them from different angles. Because this was what your write-ups were. You program them. And Fambulen, by the way, there's going to be a series of program. I'm hosting Mr. Bai again tomorrow. Yeah, because there's not going to be any let off. That hour they don't reach where the information has to be consistent. There has to be some sustainability. Yeah, no giving up. We have to keep talking, having a conversation. Chen, tell we waiting at the lead up to Usai with this show today. How come?
Yeah, we all therefore agree, say the events of yesterday are not spontaneous, not to thing will just erupt from nowhere. I mean, there were signs. Some time ago, I think it was on this program where I said we face a common danger as a country, and that common danger get to do with a regime that has no popular support, that this government can power with a tiny majority, less than 2% of the votes. Mr. Julius Madabio lead the APC candidate at the time in the elections of 2018, first round and second round. So what you will expect from a government that has a tiny majority, we can power, you will have to govern through consensus building. That's what democracy requires: negotiation, give and take. But we witness the opposite. From the beginning of the regime, we see the use of executive power, the police, for invade parliament and seize up the supremacy of parliament from the opposition at the time. And that was followed by the use of another state institution, which is the judiciary, for the removal of the members of parliament, the opposition members of parliament, 10 of them. So you get the police, executive power was used, the police as an institution was used to invade parliament, disrupt the sittings of the beginnings of parliament, the preliminary sittings of parliament or opening sessions of parliament. And then that led to what? The imposition, the forceful imposition of a speaker of parliament. So there and then we see at the beginning, at the get-go, the government capture the legislative arm of government, the legislative house, the parliament was now under executive occupation, capture. Then that the leadership of parliament, the speakership of parliament. And then the second event was the use of the court to also take over parliament, absolute parliament, take over what remained of parliament, the removal of 10 APC MPs, and then the appointment by the court of other SLPP members to replace the removed APC members. So through this way, the parliament then became under the control of the executive. What was the reaction of opposition parties? A lot of discussion happened. Letters were written, statements and press releases, to the extent that the rest of the world became worried about the rule of law and separation of powers, because then it means the executive branch of government took over both the judiciary and also the parliament. And why this is important? We therefore provide the context of where the crisis originated and how all of the political groups involved in the governance arrangement of the country, and those who are not within the governance arrangement, what you might call civil society, whether they are professional organizations, trade unions, or political parties as well, contributed to what I have called a conspiracy of silence, and allowed the situation to continue as it is, because many of them have their own their own economic and political interest in protecting and maintaining the state of affairs. So beginning from 2018 to now, we don't witness the continuous abuse, the sacking of people from public offices, the unlawful dismissal of people across parastatals, the appointment and reward of political party activists, right up to where we fast forward to the situation, and this lead to a number of, in the process, up to where we came to parliament in I think in June, where we brought parliament right to the public space, because we discovered that parliamentarians were trying to pass into law a number of legislations, including a public elections bill, which would have prevented the majority of ordinary Sierra Leoneans from being able to freely and easily participate in the elections of 2023. But before then, like how we say, we don't witness dramatic events that have claimed the lives of people, destroyed properties, including the killings in Pademba Road, the killings in Tombo, Lunsar, you name it, right across the country. These have been perennial, continuous problems, and nobody, the perpetrators of these violent events from the perspective of the state, have not been punished. If anything, it emboldened the government to the point that in this last 6 months, beginning, I say, from even April to now we see the heightened effort now at consolidation. The apex, we reached the apex of state capture, which we've been talking about the last couple of weeks and months now, highlighting, say, what we have in Sierra Leone is a complete state capture, where political organizations who are supposed to be members who are supposed to be opposition politicians are in bed with the ruling party, and that is what has completely made it difficult to hold government accountable to minimum standards of good governance, including questions of democracy, human rights, accountability, peace, and economic development, largely speaking, for the country. So the failure of all of these interest groups, civil society, professional, the Saloon Bar Association, this Association of Journalists, even the Academic Staff Association, the members of parliament in general, opposition members of parliament, and all of these institutions, organizations sat down and watched the progressive erosion of the independence of democratic institutions in the country, including, we get many examples, the removal of people from offices that are supposed to have tenure of office, the willful, deliberate sacking of the Auditor General simply because she tried to inspect or audit the travel expenditure of the president. And then also you see the intervention of the Africanist press over the last 2 to 3 years now, where we've been showing real-time evidence of the ongoing loot of the national treasury by the president, his wife, his close family members, and other leading officials in the government. And the failure on the part of the Anti-Corruption Commission and other transparency mechanisms within the internal transparency mechanism for provide the necessary insurance against the loot of the treasury. So up and above all of this, the corruption, the injustice, the use of the court for harass political opponents, the use of state institutions for destroy the democratic arrangement, and also citizens felt unprotected. Now the crisis not only stop the war, the clampdown not only stop at the highest level of the political class, but then also translate and right down to the ordinary mass. So set people against each other. And we see now people begin the economic difficulties, loss of jobs, families started getting, entering with different kinds of hardship and the realities. So this compound of problems and dissenting situation, and the inability of independent organizations for provide leadership and voice for the people in the face of this growing levels of state repression, now don't lead into what we have. The question for me is not actually what led to the desire of people to protest, because we know what led to that. People don't see in real time how the president and where they loot the money of the country, including, it was on your show here on this platform, where we showed exactly about more than 94,000 pounds that was wired to the Sierra Leone High Commission in the UK in the name of the visit of the president. And this not include money more than that amount of money that was taken by the president and his wife as out of pocket expenditure. And this is happening at a time when doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, healthcare workers, and academics, teachers and professors, lecturers, had not received their July pay. On the 28th of July, the president heading out and took over 200,000 pounds, including 94,000 pounds wired specifically to the High Commission in London. So this kind of information, people, they watch them and compare their own material conditions and then suffering, and then begin ask themselves, say they are at the mercy of the president, who thinks the central bank is his own private pocket. You just take money no more like that, and people will suffer. Does not care about the welfare of even the public sector workers. So for the longest time, if you look, especially for the last 2 years, we've been showing these problems. We've been showing, not just talking about them, but showing evidence of this existing crisis within the system. Where, for example, in April, if you remember, we begin to produce salary disparities, comparative analysis of salary disparities in the public sector workforce, which is a direct manifesto commitment. When Madabio was campaigning, he talked about the fact, say, he go address the disparities in the wage bill. He go reduce waste in public expenditure. Now, on the question of the wage bill, he talks that the wage bill done balloon under Ernest by Kroma. But when he came to power in the first 2 years, we find out that the increased addition of political appointees with exorbitant salaries and associated benefits, where sometimes 4 times, 5 times, or 10 times more than the regular civil service worker or employee, even though some of them are the same grade level, it don't blow up the wage bill beyond 60 to 75%. And to the extent that now the government would even disclose the exact cost of these wages and salaries of political appointees and consultants in the public sector that they've grafted as political compensation jobs. We don't show this sufficiently. Not just talk about it, but write about it, but we show the concrete evidence that has not been denied. Then in April, one crucial thing where we show how these political appointees, then benefits and salaries and working conditions compare with significant sectors of the workforce, teachers, nurses, and soldiers, police officers, the prison service. We show, for example, we are 30 people in the Ministry of Finance. Their salaries combined in a month can pay over 1,700 army officers, some of them in the ranks of colonel. We show how drivers working for the Electoral Commission, whose salaries were increased recently, were earning 2 times more than the salary of a lieutenant colonel and colonels in the Sierra Leone Army. When we highlight this, what was the response of party supporters and the government? They accused us of trying to foment treason. Some of the journalists supporting the government wrote opinion articles, said we should be charged, Africanist should be charged of treason, because they said we are inciting the army or inciting the security sector against the state. So these are April, May. Now here we are, 3 months later. You have these killings that have taken place, deaths of both security people. By the way, the people that we demonstrated yesterday, ordinary young people who are unemployed, and the security officers, whether they are police, OSD, or army officers, they are all victims of this state of oppression. Because when you look at the salary of the police officer or the soldier, you find it's not the same as the salary of the teacher. They're the same as almost as the salary of a regular nurse. We don't show this. We don't show this. When you compare them to the salaries of the political appointees, you find out one political appointee in monthly salary will pay 10 or 20 of them officers there. So which means the same hardship that ordinary people are we come on yesterday talk about the hardship and all of that. The same hardship when they suffer is being experienced by the officers. And this is a problem we don't highlight, because when we are highlighting the salary disparities and the lower wages of significant sectors of the public workforce, we are calling government's attention to a real problem that exists, which they plan, then get a bill in a parliament that they call the Wages and Compensation Bill. It has been there for almost 2 years now. Parliament has not passed it into law. But very recently, at the same time when we talk about salaries in April and May, when they show the salary disparities, the parliament decided to pass into law a bill we're going to talk about the welfare and salaries of MPs alone, members of parliament alone. Meanwhile, for 2 years, we've been talking about the harmonization of salaries for public sector workers, including in April, where teachers came out, they were saying they need increased pay, wages and pay. So the political class, collective, members of parliament in the opposition, and those in the ruling party were aware of these problems. They were aware that corruption has heightened under Madabio, that there was evidence of corruption, not just talk about corruption or perception. There was hard evidence of the loot of the treasury by the president. We showed where the wife of the president was a regular recipient of public funds, budgetary allocations, which is a direct violation of the finance laws, the national laws of Sierra Leone. She is not supposed to be a recipient of public funds. We brought that to the attention not just of Sierra Leone, but to the rest of the world. It became world news. Our parliamentarians never took action to address it. We showed that the president has taken over $1 million to Lebanon on a supposed medical trip that never happened, and he was on a vacation. And Parliament never did anything to investigate that. When the audit service decided to investigate these stories, what did we see? The Auditor General was sacked. What has Parliament done? Nothing. So people have not come to the realization that the state of Sierra Leone has failed. The politicians have failed to represent their interest. They have failed to articulate the concerns of the people. And this is not just the Madabio government or the SLPP. It's even the APC and the other opposition parties in parliament fail to pick up these issues. They fail to make sure that the question of wages and salaries, as promised in the manifesto of the government, and they have a bill and a position paper from parliament from cabinet sent to parliament, where we don't publish even these letters where the cabinet was saying, then they await parliamentary discussion and approval of the wages and compensation bill. That has never happened for almost getting to 3 years now. But in the meanwhile, parliamentarians were approving, they developed their own law, brought it to parliament, and we are passing it into law for their own benefit, including the fact that if they're sick, they should be entitled to international medical care, standard medical care, a medical allowance, allowance for vehicle, other kinds of, we want to see the benefit. And then people raised concerns about it. Parliamentarians came out on radio stations and defended it. And they said they are entitled to such benefits. But at the same time, they never took, that the same month, April and May, we were showing that teachers, healthcare workers, soldiers, military people, their salaries were horrible and horrendous. And now then people, and then when crisis come, now then very people, then the badly paid police officers, some of whom do not even have uniforms for the last 2 years. You ask police officers, they know they get regular supplies, they know they get regular uniforms, shoes, then get problem with regular supplies of them uniforms, shoes, and other logistics, including rice. In April, when we showed the condition of the security sector, the government panicked and decided to supply the police rice. We published the pictures and evidence of police, the rice we then sent to the police then, April, May, was rice that was expired, the rotting. We showed this. So the lip service, the government failure for address the economic realities in the country, and then passion for loot the wealth of the country, the passion for also violate human rights, including the use of state institutions for suppress known opponents. So when we the produce, for example, my own case, the government only send the supporters them for harass me and begin threatening me and make death threats. They talk, their own official representatives wrote that I should be charged for treason. The Office of National Security issued out a statement calling on other state institutions to collaborate for shut down Africanist press. And this was this year. The same time last year, we don't talk about this show, the bank governor also don't call on the Attorney General for making them fair way for bring criminal charges against me for speaking about these real issues that parliamentarians have failed to pick up on behalf of the people, that other civil society and interest groups have failed to speak up with this issue. So this conspiracy of silence is not just because they were afraid of Madabio, because they have their own material interest. Some of the things are the alliance. We've been talking about this. The alliance between the opposition in parliament and the ruling party is what denied the people of Sierra Leone the opportunity for get spokespeople, people away for talk for them on their own behalf, way for put pressure on government, make government give concessions, whether the increase in salaries, the reduction of corruption, or talk about policies and programs that could benefit young people, and all of that. They failed. They are just catering for themselves. And the reason why this happened, now because many of these politicians in parliament, who we don't talk about, have their hidden political ambition. They worked actively with the state, not just for facilitate state capture of independent institutions, but for also the state for help them for get control over their own political parties, so they go fear their own direct political ambition. We talked about this not too long ago, I think 2-3 weeks now. You have been attacked even by members of the opposition simply because we brought this conversation. So not to just the SLPP has committed these atrocities, they have been condoned by the opposition in parliament. And this June, by May, June, where we start for whole parliament to task, not just for their failure to stand up for the people and protect with democracy and raise the minimum and questions, but the fact that they were also working to prolong the duration of this government, the duration, by making sure they are passing laws secretly. We will give the government the legal basis for continuing in office. And that legal basis will be to deny the people the opportunity to exercise their franchise in a way that is reflective of their desires and aspirations. So if you recall, since we take on parliament and the entire establishment and bring them out to the public domain and force parliamentarians not for pass dangerous laws, we became target not just of the ruling party, but of the entire establishment. This is where the violence started. This eruption, we see so, started with our effort to hold parliament to task and collectively and call on the people of Sierra Leone within the country, outside of the country, and friends of Sierra Leone for begin turn their gaze into parliament and begin call the question of state capture. Because initially we were told by parliamentarians they were disabled from carrying out their functions, from representing the people. Then said in the Fred Mother Bill, they bulldoze them, they do so. So because of that, when we see this, we say, okay, when I bulldoze, now we call on the whole world for make we see how they will bulldoze in our district. The bulldozing never worked in the case of the public elections bill. And the public elections bill, we keep saying, was not just an ordinary bill, was a bill that was designed as part of a legal approach, a legal strategy, the parliamentary strategy for rig the election. We don't talk, we identified, and we've talked about it, if I remember, say that we don't identify two basic methods with Mother Bill and the SLPP regime, one for use for win the election. For rig the election, for staying at power, despite the fact, say, everybody don't fed up. And that is what we see. The people came out not because they are fed up, they wanted to be seen, they're eager for get rid of this situation. They're tired. Okay, the politicians in power know this. So the violence is basically the result of the aspiration of the people then for, say, we don't tire with this kind of situation. We've never had this kind of pressure where a government is plainly authoritarian, directly corrupt, openly corrupt, and it doesn't care about law, does not have time for the constitution, and it's ruling like a colony of gangsters. So, and then you have other people who are supposed to be there to stop these things. They are pretending to be incapable of doing it. Because when parliamentarians say, we try, but then the bulldoze, we are not careful with that, it's basically you're saying you are feeble. So the parliamentarians lied to their constituents, to their party supporters by saying, presenting themselves as weaklings in front of a monstrous president. Now we've come to learn that's not the case. They are basically actively working with the government to continue, for me the government continue, because it will also enhance their agenda. We don't talk about that, and we've been insulted because of that. Now we expose this parliamentary complicity with the government and then tie them up with other state institutions to the extent that we begin to show how that complicity, they don't even destroy not just the ability of the parliament for whole government accountable, but also for the political parties outside of parliament for able to act independently. In the case of the APC, we show how the same court will remove APC members from parliament, also and appoint SLPP members to replace the APC, elected APC members, also dismantle the entire opposition party from the top to the bottom. From the APC now get, as we talk to, for example, APC now get ward executive, they now get constituency executive, they now get district executive, they now get regional executive, they now get national executive. Then even in diaspora structures have been dismantled. Over the last couple of weeks, we see that they argue, this one say get right for appoint this because the court also not only remove APC members, the majority in parliament, but also take the parliamentarian way say they're opposed to the court decision, accept a court decision to dismantle the entire structural arrangement of a political party that is over 60 years old, and gave the party to two factions. One faction led by the parliamentary leader of the APC, the other faction led by another group that's outside of parliament. So you have a 21-man committee. For the last couple of weeks, we've been asking a very simple question. How can the APC members of parliament say they are opposed to the court's removal of their so-called party comrades from parliament and their acceptance of that same court decision to take over their party through a court appointment? If you are opposed to the court appointing SLPP members to replace your members in parliament, how can you not be opposed to the court's removal of your party leaders and your appointment as caretakers of your party? This simple, basic question, that cause insult for we. But it's a very fundamental question, because it's a question that deals with the fundamental issue that's the problem of governance now, the state capture, where elite groups in opposition parties, not all of them, some of them in parliament with their power have decided to collaborate with the government to give the government, to disable parliament from functioning. In exchange, they can also take their political party. And this is why they were also instrumentalizing the rigging of the elections through the elections bill. So you see the give and take. So in a bargain.
Yeah,
So
let me butt in there quickly.
the reason why I take this long premise first before you butt in.
I do understand, okay. And I didn't dig you at all. I mean, just want to lump something in there. I understand that completely, and I be want to speak to Fambule where they listen, because some people their ears are only open for you about the protest. Even though now the protest will they talk about, because now waiting lead up to them. Now you they take your time for explain all the nitty-gritty around them. So now that's what I just want to talk about. So Fambule, as soon as they hear me, of course I'm speaking live. Today we did talk about the protest. The reason why I believe say the guests they go at great lengths for explain all of this, where at some point some people then will think say it sound like being political, but when they talk about the structures and go back again to the title of the program. Go back again to the title of the program. It's all about the protest. It's all about the opening question. Waiting lead up to Usai we found ourselves yesterday. Was it strange? And we hear from the guests. It wasn't spontaneous. We know say this been there, here in the making. And as a consequence of the structure of the state, how they conduct themselves, and this not the elite. So the blame is not ascribed to one person, but the entire state apparatus, the elite, and in the form of a state capture, and people are underneath and fed up. CHERNOH, before you continue, the question here again is, we see these protests come riot, but it seemed like it only affects some parts of the country. I mean, it was huge. People turn out in numbers, but we see now certain parts of the country. Does that make any difference to you and others, some social scientists, political analysts there?
Yeah, accidental. These are the reason why make you see I want to tell the story, not explain, but tell a story about how this happened, so people can go remember. Because the problem we have sometimes, we have been inundated with so many problems that we tend to forget. Like I say in the beginning, people have even forgot the tragedy that happened months ago with the tanker incident, where we lost people there, lives were lost. At the same time, the president was not in the country. But yeah, to continue to stop, the activity that we did in June, which is to expose Parliament, the complicity of Parliament, the state capture, how Madabio capture Parliament, and make sure the parliamentarians are able to represent the people them and speak on behalf of the people. In exchange, the parliamentarians then also don't control, in the case of the APC, control the young political party through the same crooked way. You don't understand? Because we still maintain with position that the court has no basis for determining who leads a political party. That should be the decision of party members. Okay? But for me, we not slow down in terms of the train of thought, forget to the question which you just asked, which is part of the story. Now, the facts say because of mass action, the what you call sensitization, the awareness we bring to the people about this parliamentary situation, and Parliament, for the first time in these 4 years, became unable to pass this dangerous law. And the law, not an ordinary law, because the NIN, the proportional representation, and all of this, now things away for don't help Madabio and help the parliamentarians. Because parliamentarians were basically trying to cut themselves away from the constituency by having a proportional representation, which will work in their interest, really. We don't talk about for parties like NGC, it will increase their representation in parliament, if not, especially if the threshold were to be brought down. If for the C4C, likewise. For the APC, if they take over their political party, which they have done, and then decide who are going to be the party executives, because now, and then they decide again whether they vote, which means they will have a list. Now they can decide again the list of people going to parliament. And you can look at the new APC constitution, where they don't just develop. Now, instead of just signing symbols, people get a vote for you. So it's these are all related. The APC constitution and the bill and all of this is tied together. People need to read then TI and SIAM and see the correlation and connections between these instruments, these documents, from the party level to the national level. But what struck me as an individual looking at the whole situation, and I'm still struck by it, and I think, Mayor, you can talk about this even in private conversation, other people that talk to me. I am still shocked and struck by what I call not just this conspiracy of the elite, but the levels of betrayal, involved among these groups of people and all of that. But for the purposes of the conversation, not to make we not stray away. Now, the fact that since we expose them parliamentarian and the government together, there's a collective effort on the part of the government and the parliamentarian that we don't get this covenant, because I call the public elections bill as a covenant, a give and take. Now we go put a provision where we go limit people their chances from voting, especially if we use the NCRA, the NIN. So people are in the western area, people are in northwest, especially the people that we inhabit the areas where this demonstration has happened, will have been the potential people that will also not be able to vote. That will be stopped. If I remember, in our conversation, we had said the law will prevent opposition supporters or people who are likely to vote against this government from being able to register if they had included a national identification number. And the reason why we say so, we see how the NCRA provide easy way for register people in the so-called areas where SLPP believe they have support, and make it difficult for people in areas where they think opposition people inhabit. And if you look at the protest, like the question we ask, there's a relation, but since we exposed this and the parliament became unable, after weeks wait and try, for the first time, we see almost a bill, discussion around the bill go to 2 months. Finally, they abandoned the bill, basically. And she said, because they removed all of these other bad things away for affect voter participation. And we don't also say the second strategy is candidate exclusion, that the courts are going to be used as part of this process for also exclude potential candidates from being able to participate and contest the election. And at this, the COI is part of the process, the Commission of Inquiry, trials and appeals that have been ongoing and all of that. And how that is being used as an instrument to also exclude people. So we get voter suppression and candidate exclusion that we've spoken about. What does this mean? It gets huge implication for both the politicians in the opposition that are working with the government for extended term of office through this crooked use of institutions and legislation for do this. And the fact that now we don't begin awaken people their attention to this situation, it has become difficult for them. And they have to react. They have to respond. And not only that, we have extended it from the state institutions to the political parties, which are the extension of the public institutions, really. So for the APC, we've been consistently, for example, I've been on the consistently talk about questioning the MPs, and to the extent that I have called on APC party members, old and young, and say you have to institute an independent investigation on the conduct of the parliamentary wing of the party and their political ambition. I don't say that. I have been insulted by APC supporters, but I keep saying it again, and I'll continue to say that today. What has happened in the country is not separate from the events where we expose, from the table we begin expose Parliament. We saw it coming. If I go on my Facebook page, I have highlighted even 2 days or a day before the event, I talk say there is no need for what we call protest, like mass action against a government when we get the opportunity now for prepare for elections. If the opposition, like for example, and this comes from my the point where I started hearing that people have a right to protest without police permit, which is okay, right? But at the same time, I also went as far as saying anyone who is saying that if you're not a lawyer, where they say that, or you're not a member of parliament, where they say that, they tell people and say they get right for demonstrate and get right for protest, which they actually have, you have to take leadership of the demonstration. You have to call for it personally and take leadership, because if a member of parliament, members of parliament, or the professionals, the bar association members decide for standing in front of demonstrators, I guarantee you, it will not end up in this kind of tragedy that we have. And they forget clearly articulated demands, because there are genuine reasons why people came out to protest. The hardship is too much. Suppression, the violation of human rights. These are genuine concerns that every citizen have the right to protest. But everybody will talk against the government that is not part of this arrangement has been brutalized. So that the responsibility of organizations that lead the people who are speaking, including the parliamentarians, they are part of the people. Therefore, don't organize, if they know say people are want to do this demonstration, or lead them, or tell the people and say we articulate on our concerns. But they are silent over the issues that affect the people, about the dangerous nature of the government over these years, is what forced people to begin to think about how to exert pressure on the government. But we are saying we therefore discuss this violence within the context of the Public Elections Bill and the drama that happened in Parliament, going on to the current conflict in the APC, where they were arguing over who is legal and who is not legal, because all of this get electoral consequences. Now, we get this violence happen almost 2 weeks after we defeat the regime and its allies in Parliament from passing a dangerous elections law. And 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks ahead of the beginning of the electoral calendar, the registration of voters. Now, what do we have? We have violence which will result into the state declaring martial law, which we call martial law, curfew. This gets implications, because what it's going to do, it going to affect the electoral calendar. Not only affect the electoral calendar, it also now with the Yeri say the protests only happen in the so-called opposition strongholds. Eastern Freetown, Makeni, Kamakwe, places where the APC has its own supporters, because the foreign minister, you say, but in parts of the southeast, people were calm, there was discipline, there was decorum, but the atrocities and violence happened in areas that are supposed to be APC strongholds. So by extension, he had even gone as far as calling it a terrorist attack in front of the international community. So the question is, we be not, like me, Atoka, say, we do not need, nobody know want violence except the agents of the state, people who are working with the state, and the regime itself don't realize their parliamentary effort, this legal and institutional effort for rig the election is becoming difficult, because people are not begin pay attention to the rigging. We don't move from financial corruption to political corruption. We don't begin draw the nexus between the two and how the institutions are captured. We don't begin not only for highlighter, take actions by making phone calls to political party representative, peaceful action. Then we the lead for begin hold leaders accountable, to the point where we were even going to initiate a right for justice campaign, which we are going to launch today, asking citizens of Sierra Leone to write to the president as fountain of honor and justice, for say, stop the use of the judiciary for muzzle political opponents, for muzzle citizens of Sierra Leone, for violate the constitution, for violate the rule of law. We need for respect the rule of law. We are planning to do that on Wednesday, and we are going to do it today or launch it on Friday, because asking him one example where we know the use continuous use of Adrian Fisher, as a judge for dismantle the APC, the same judge, the same individual that they use in the wrongful prosecution and unlawful detention, imprisonment of Paulo Conte. The same one then turned out from a prosecutor to a judge, dismantled the APC, and gave it to the MPs. We've been questioning that all these weeks. Now, what do we get now? People's attention is being moved away from holding the state in its complicity with some of these politicians in the opposition. Not all of them, some of them that we've started identifying and going after and calling out. Now, what we've had, how you could say that coincidence now? We are calling the attention of constituent members and supporters of this party to the actions of their leaders in parliament, and how the actions of their leaders in parliament is not helping, is helping the regime for stay on in power. Then all of a sudden, boom, you have this insurrection. Suppose people came out generally to protest, and there is killings all over the place that we don't even know about how many people have died. And now the government is saying it's tying it to opposition people. It's tying it to opposition people. So what you begin to see here is an effort by the government for prolonged stay. And we post some of these things 2 days or 3 days before they happen. We say the only thing the state can orchestrate violence, so that the state will use that orchestration of violence for pretend, say, that ordinary citizens and do and support political opponents and do and for a whole day. That's what government do. Madabio cannot, I say again, we don't say them for 2 years now and a year. Because of the nature of the exposure, we don't expose this government, then corruption and lack of commitment to good governance and principles of accountability and transparency, to the extent that everybody in the country don't see. Now, if Madabio take plain self, everybody will calculate how much money, then things they don't care go, based off the evidence that they had in the past and which they continue to receive. So they can calculate the figures on their own using the metrics of past things they've seen, past evidence that they've seen of the president's use of travel for loot. Then at the extent to which people have become awoken, the president don't know, say now, he cannot win a free and fair election. He is afraid for face the people there in a direct, free and fair competitive environment. So he wants for make sure, say, he remove anybody from participating in the elections where say the person who the supporter or not, the person will serve as an impediment to him getting re-elected. And this, now what we see with the public elections bill, now what we see with the current use of Fisher for harass Samura Kamara as an example. There are many others whose heads and necks are now on the judicial hang noose, because simply they are identified as potential contenders for the presidency who he has not been able to compromise. You watch almost everybody that Madabio has brought a case against in the opposition as somebody, for the most part, who he thinks is a threat to him, to his continuation in power. Those who are in peace and have nothing, almost, are individuals who have posed no threat to him, no threat to his continuation in office. It's a simple thing, because we don't know, say, the COI and this whole corruption thing is not about the government being committed to the fight against corruption, but is using it as a weapon against organized opposition at the country. Now, as we speak, the APC is not a functional political party. Not. It has no executive at any level, whether they accept it or not. What they have is a 21-man, two-faction committee, illegal committee, imposed by a court, appointed by the appointment of the committee, the composition of the committee is recommended by an individual who is not qualified, according to the lawyers in Sierra Leone, to practice law. So how can you call that an opposition party? And this week, or towards the end of this week, now the APC will begin to constitute an interim election management committee, which will be tasked with the responsibility of implementing the election rules which have been gazetted. And there are a few petitions now regarding that need to go on. So this week, I never don't use for sit-down now and begin to talk about how they will make lower level and medium level and higher level elections in their party, which is good, because we need opposition parties for function. Because then if people fed up with, like when people are saying Madabio must go, it's not going to go just in vacuum. There has to be a replacement. People are going to forget choice. They know what Madabio, they're going to forget what the person for choose. But Madabio knows the people want him to go, so he's making sure that he is going to determine if he's not going, who is going to be a choice for the people. And the way they do that, now to make sure, say, he dismantle first the opposition parties, in the case of the APC, dismantle the APC through the court, and also use the court to exclude other contenders. So he will have people of his own choice that will likely become the candidates. We're not talking about proxy candidates in the election. Those proxy candidates, even if you rig the election, they will have no problem because there is already an understanding. Perhaps you do 10 years, after 10 years, whichever your own turn will reach. That is not how democracy functions. Some of the politicians, they don't even give the member and say the TRC recommendation, we don't say APC for they do 10 years, SLPP do 10 years. Tijankaba don't do 10 years. He don't do the 10 years. He don't done. And as Kuruma can say don't do 10 years. Now Madabio in turn for do 10 years. After Madabio, then the next person will be in line. That's a lie. There is no, they even lie to the member. They say the international community, they make that agreement. It's an unspoken agreement to them. They say that the international community. We are telling you this is a lie. Complete big lie. So, because then things say, Tijankaba do 10 years, and Eskroma do 10 years, Madabio Yosef will do 10 years. And the people of Sierra Leone, you saw, if there is anything we have to take from the protest, omitting the tragedy and the violence, is the slogan that Madabio must go. That is no play. This is a popular phrase all over Sierra Leone and among Sierra Leoneans all over the diaspora, deep within their heart. And the government of Sierra Leone knows this. The allies of the government in political parties, in parliament, and in other institutions and outside, in the media and civil society, they all know this. They know that I have said it, if you put an empty ballot box, you write Sierra Leone, you put Madabio, ballot box, you put Madabio, you say, "Una vote." No disturbance. The empty ballot box with Sierra Leone or with no name safe will get more votes than Madabio right now. That is what you saw with that protest. But the protest here has the conditions for the protest exist. The objective conditions, like how they talk, the salary issue, corruption, exist. But the organizational arrangement it is with this kind of desperation, the state is using every mechanism for make sure they tilt the landscape in favor of them staying in power. And that's
quickly again on that same point. I mean, this is the hair na the back of my neck, here is kind of standing up. Because it almost like you read those of we were old enough, a James Hadley Chase novel or Perry Mason sort of expose. They talk about collusion on a state level. It look obvious because certain things they not for happen. If there's no collusion, it can't be a one-sided thing, especially in a parliament made up of opposition parties, regardless of how small you are. My question here to you, CHERNOH, is if Madabio they collude, or the other side they collude with Madabio, why will they be doing that? And they talk about opposition party then, because this is not the $1 million question. Why will they be doing that at the expense of their own party?
Oh, these are politicians who do not care about their political parties, or because they care about their own personal ambition, their own selfish interest. Because if these politicians care about the country and the national interest, they would have picked up the wages and compensation bill and passed it into law. From March 1, 2020, when we published the first article on salary disparities, this is 2020. I'm answering your question, but let me just give the context. 2020, we highlight the fact, say, the Ministry of Finance, the payroll of the Ministry of Finance is scandalous in the sense that political appointees were earning 10 times more than regular. The Ministry of Finance write a press release in response to Africanist Press. They recognize the fact that, yes, the salaries are true. They say the inheritance from the APC. And not only that, there is a commitment on the part of the government to take a wages and compensation bill to Parliament. The following year, 2021, they said, don't make a cabinet paper. We'll publish a letter for say all MDA should cease salary adjustments until Parliament passed the bill. But at the same time, again, they increase next salaries. So, and increase other political appointees than salaries. This thing has been in Parliament and not ever passed them. We don't write about salary disparities. The same month in April and May when we published the disparity between the security sector workers and political appointees, we were accused of treason. Few weeks after that, Parliament introduced a new bill and passed a new talk about their own welfare bill, ignoring the welfare of other workers, thousands of public sector workers, thousands, hundreds. These are their supporters and people they represent. So why I start that way, I will tell you, say, they do not care about really the national agenda, national interest. They care about their own. So if they are all competitors for a political race, where each of these politicians get a young flag bearer ambition and they want to lead their party, they see an opportunity to working with Mother Bill for capture their own party, get rid of the gerontocratic leadership of the APC, and say that they will go take over, then it means that is a benefit for them. And this is what has happened. The party has been dismantled and given to two factions, one represented by Parliament, the parliamentary wing, and the other outside of Parliament. These are competing groups. And for the last couple of weeks, we see the argument between them, who should have more the opportunity for call meeting or would I let our own self. That's the competition. And by the way, these are all young people. That's the sad part. These are people from the ages of 35 to 55 years who want a new leadership in the APC, who want changes in the, which is not a bad thing. But they have only been able to do that by collaborating with the state, and the state institutions will dismantle the young majority in the parliament and dismantle the young party and give them. So this is why, if you remember, I had said before this protest that the problem, part of the problem of the APC is the parliamentary wing of the party and its flag bearer ambition. And I also said that an investigation should be done on the parliamentary wing. That is one way they will begin to get at the problem. I don't talk about.
Well, by whom? You earlier on say
I named the parliamentary leader of the party. I named the parliamentary leader of the party. I said
no. What I mean to be investigated. I'm sure you're.
Yeah. I don't know. But I am assuming, I'm under the impression that a party of 60 years, no matter how they're supposed to get, even because parties that I know in other parts of the world that I've studied have veterans councils, they have elders, they have different structures. So I am not a member of the APC. I do not know I don't know the Ibale. You don't understand.
Well, assuming say they get such structure and you're absolutely
they get such
right.
Structures, I believe that there are people.
One minute, CHERNOH. Assuming say you are right. A party of 60 years will get such structure for investigate. But at the same time, if you say there is some conspiracy against the party by the judiciary of the country, waiting potentially will come out of such investigation way by law, then will still come back and dismantle and waiting then want for let it happen, now it eventually go happen.
No, I think some of them they happen the way they happen because for the most part, when political leaders they fight, their members do not know the issues. This is why you find that when we begin to talk about the issues there, some of these leaders send their supporters for begin insulting for heckle the conversation. Heckling is an effort to prevent truth from coming out. Absolutely. Because the moment ordinary members and supporters are educated around political problems, they will take responsibility. They will take charge of solving the problem. And no politician want a popular revolt against your own selfish ambition. You don't understand? So the moment we begin, basically, as outsiders, we saw this problem. Why we became interested in the problem? Because we see this political party then fight. They try for intercept the people and desire for change in the country. So we want to open up the political landscape and make it's a multi-party environment. Multi-party environment presupposes that there should be multiple parties and multiple political contenders should be able to compete freely. So people will have multiple choices. And by having multiple choices, people will go vote for somebody like the person of angry vote get. Say this person enemy choice. That is what democracy is about. It's about opening up, and especially not a two-party state we get, now a multi-party constitution. It allows, regardless of whether political parties they go to parliament or not, but what they exist, they represent particular opinion and particular views and interests. So this is the reason we make you find out. And I think it's a very germane question. What you're asking about you find out, say, since we begin point at this issue, begin call, say, party members, now begin call for investigation, or for some of them, on investigate on leaders. You have been insulted by that. You talk about a program which you held here, where almost everybody get for scattered at the show, and you receive past direct insult. Yeah, I have received the same thing, but knowing, say, part of the problem as alone, as long as people are opposed to truth, when it affect them, when it affect their interest, they know it's not true, but they know say this true, yeah, it disturb my own plan, then go vex. When you talk the truth against other person, then they recognize that. So that's so knowing the context of the environment which we will serve, we just decide for be stubborn and resilient and say we go talk what in not true, regardless of what you want to say. So this will effort to expose the truth and direct citizens, like in the case of the APC, it don't heighten the problem. Other people don't begin to ask questions. The moment the questions then begin to go, increase the number of people, ordinary people begin to ask questions, the truth that they are suppressing will come out. And the thing is, addressing that problem in the APC is also affecting a strategy of the regime for rigged election. The same way we don't affect the government in strategy or the regime in strategy in parliament for passing a law that will have prevented opposition supporters or anybody who no one support Mother Bio for get the opportunity for vote. The same way the exposure of the actual problem within the opposition party or opposition parties, they also affect Mother Bio strategy, and the government get for react. This time they were defeated in parliament. They are about to be also take the stranglehold where the government get over parliament, where parliament tell them say, hey, we're not able to resist. Then the bulldoze we make sure bulldoze not happen. We try to also make sure, say, the grip where the court get over the party, the opposition party, and the other institutions is about to be cut loose. Boom, violence don't happen now. Now, what we hearing now? The foreign minister don't even begin quote, say, some of the APC leaders that may talk, say, if you not win the election 2018, then we'll make the country ungovernable. You know. Some of them don't even talk, say, the Yeri say Samura Kamara say there is tribalism in Sierra Leone. So what does that mean? They are now zeroing on not just in a region and in towns inhabited by the gerontocratic leadership that has been overthrown, that is under the attack of the judiciary, because Samura has a case in court based off a story that we have published, Africanist Press, about the New York Times rebuilding, money that was stolen by Mother Bio's diplomats in 2019. And that has been one of the injustices that we've been looking at. The APC has been looking at it. Some of their members are silently happy about it because they talk. We talk to the dairy, then say Samura not going for make them because then things say the court the convictor. They will prevent them from contesting. So some of them are preparing themselves to become default beneficiaries or beneficiaries of that. And we are saying, no, you therefore allow the landscape for be fair. Internal democracy within political parties have to be fair. Because when politicians emerge from the political party level as Democrats, as popular candidates, then they rise up as popular candidates into the national stage, we know to get popular politicians emerging. And then the process of building consensus at the national level would be difficult. Now, the same thing make we get Mother Bio problems. So the SLPP power group hijack the SLPP without undemocratically, then they end up default way become president. Mother Bio become president without clear-cut majority. He never build the consensus because he does not know what consensus is about. Emerge into state power, take over the state with consensus. How can he build so you don't polarize the country now? Therefore, divide and scatter institutions for make able to stay. The same destruction, the same dismantling of the SLPP that led him to State House. Now the same thing they try to do for scatter and dismantle the independence of institutions, so he will also be in charge of basically remaining in power. So now this make with the try for insist say the democratic arrangements within political parties have to be the primary thing we should struggle for. Then after that, the open democratic space at the national level. Everybody that wants to compete should be able to compete. If Madabio believes that he's a good president, he has delivered everything in his manifesto and has added more, why is he afraid of a free and fair election? Why is he disturbing state institutions from performing their stated constitutional functions and mandate? Why is he also obstructing the internal politics of political parties? That should not happen. So every citizen should be concerned about that. We should be concerned not because we are not members of political parties. No, because when political parties end up forgetting rogue leaders at the top, and those rogue leaders end up at the national level, we are going to suffer the consequences. If a politician can collaborate with the state to overthrow their own party and then end up at the state, at the power, at the level of, at the national level, we will have no democracy. That the same will get worse a situation than we have under Madabio. The mistake we made in not paying attention to the SLPP's crisis, internal crisis, we cannot afford to make that mistake in not looking at what is happening in the APC and other political parties if they are faced with such kind of situation. That's my position. And I'm saying the coincidence, the violence coming up right within this period will lead to elections and politicians are being exposed. The levels of state capture, the various levels of state capture is now forming part of the national discussion to the extent that individuals who are in collaboration with the state are being called out and being questioned regarding why they have failed in parliament to represent the people and why a simple question, why will MPs, members of parliament who are opposed to a court decision to remove their colleagues will accept a court decision to be in charge of their party? Simple question. What is their answer? Somebody tell me, say, vex take, no vex left. No, that is not democracy. You cannot accept to be the beneficiary of an undemocratic activity, illegal activity. There should be a politician must have principle position, especially for lawmakers, for parliamentarians. They are honorable members of parliament. They are lawmakers. By extension, they are upholders of the Constitution. They cannot put themselves in a situation where they become accidental or deliberate beneficiaries of a process of illegality. So, which means they are willing to use the court to sacrifice not just their party comrades in parliament, but also their own party leaders, the old guards. Okay, now violence don't happen in towns and communities that are supposedly populated by their own party supporters, because that's what the government is saying. And government has called their party supporters terrorists, just like the same way they called them terrorists 2 years ago or a year ago, if I remember well, 2 years ago. We get the same thing. Now they are invoking campaign messages, which politician as alone, no, don't talk about, say, if I don't win the election, I don't agree, from the PMDC to the SLPP.
They're all the on record.
They're all threatening that violence.
Violence. Yeah.
Yes, so they always say that. How can you use a campaign message as a basis? So basically, you have shown that the purpose of the violence and the coffee where you make, you want for now arrest. If you're able to use the court for disqualify, you want for now arrest the political opponents there.
So we quickly they run out of time, and I want for let me catch up with a few things quickly. But just a quick reminder, then Famble. CHERNOH is back on the platform tomorrow. Una can see the flyer behind me, and the flyer will be hugely advertised as this one. The numbers are not too bad. We've got almost 500 at some point. We went beyond the 500 mark, and hopefully tomorrow we will generate even more numbers. The reason we know the look, this is not what we look for. The idea that a lot of people will flock to the platform and can you read this kind of a message, which to me is gospel, because the period for conscientization, information is quite necessary so that we help for open up the political landscape through information where people are able to make choices on their own based on waiting and information. Okay? So with the big, tomorrow, when I come back again on the platform, CHERNOH will be on the platform again tomorrow. And the program tomorrow is even going to be lengthy. We're going to be touching on a variety of issues that are affecting the country today, even though you don't speak on them. But a young man always come from a backdrop, where they expect them to come from. Talking about the same thing, but within a different, narrative. And just for say this quickly, This platform opposed to any form, shape of violence. I repeat, this platform opposed to any shape or form of violence. But within the same vein, we will not hesitate to say, because of constitutional provision, we believe strongly that there is a right of for the people for protest. Okay? And especially when the conditions become ripe and necessary. And sometimes the government can be irresponsible in their actions by depriving people from protesting when it absolutely necessary. I've been on do a program on this couple of times, not only because this happened, is it as a consequence of fear. Because sometimes you get for let people let the steam off, because if you continue for kettle them in that pressure cooker, it becomes dangerous. Like yesterday, we see a lot of things, we kind of happen, and some people got caught up in it. And Cherno, this brings me to the question of the organization. I know you talked about it, and we see the necessity, like I say from the beginning of the program. You don't need a rocket scientist for tell you, say, the time was just ripe. And like you say, people are feeling the pinch. There is a cost of living crisis in the country. There is a lack of faith in the system. The politicians, the elite class, they haven't done the people any justice at all. So talking about this demo turn, protest turn riot, because what I do know is protest, it gets a prerequisite skill, in other words, for organizing and mobilizing. It's not just about talking. There has to be some organization, okay? And at that level, what you will see happen, definitely, there must have been some invincible hands or things there. Will you elaborate on that, please, before we see how this program they go to an end?
Yeah, you're right for say while people can say mass action can be spontaneous, but even at that underlying uh, structural organization should be should have gone into it then before Europe. But and I'm glad the way you talk say we recognize the right of people for protest. That's a democratic right. That now some this is not about questioning people's right to protest. No, it is about saying that the outcome, the tragic outcome in itself, because protests they do two things: either advance people then desire for change, basically advance or move forward people then struggle, or it hurt them struggle for change. And this particular incident yesterday is hurting the people's desire for change and effort for change, because it's now being capitalized upon by the state for carrying out their own agenda of repression. The thing happened less than 24 hours. They not already show decided what happened. Basically, opposition strongholds. That's one. Secondly, today they don't even do an investigation. They don't even begin to accuse opposition party leaders that are not in the good books of the government. What you will expect is that by now an investigation committee for SNIFO don't do. Say set up an independent investigative panel that will investigate the circumstances which generate the protest.
Underlining the word independent.
Yeah, independent actors, people not tied to the rogue arrangement.
Yeah.
Independent. For example, this morning, David Francis, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, invited the international community for a briefing. What do you expect now for call on more, what you call quote unquote moral guarantors to help we for investigate this situation? But instead, he went there and showed these gruesome images of dead bodies, including police officers only. Now, police officers only show how, and call them terrorists. These are not demonstrators. Basically, he was criminalizing the citizens of Sierra Leone for protesting and telling the international community, you cannot defend this as human right. And we get the right for arrest people that we think. And we don't think so that the opposition APC that cause because this happened to their own stronghold. Then he went as far as saying, in we own areas in the southeast, nothing will happen. So which means the same way David Francis come out and say everybody in the country is a thief man, we did not work under the last government, without an investigation, without an inquiry, without any panel, less than 48 hours after the incident, you don't already know the perpetrators of the incident.
No investigation launched yet.
No investigation. So this comes to what you're asking about. The organization was this an independent revolt? Was this part of a state operation for accuse the opposition and get them arrested, especially opposition politicians, and where they don't use the court for remove now, effort day for because there has been talk from what I heard to reconcile the different factions in the APC ahead of the elections before they move. Now, this process of accusations coming from the state about them being terrorists is going to affect the APC from organizing themselves the way they want to organize themselves, for reconciling differences and begin constitute executives, begin prepare for elections. Because now what the APC will be talking about is how to form an election registration campaign for beginning to get the members register, ask Electoral Commission for disclose the amount of registration centers so they'll see if there's a balance. Now the election issues they will be focusing, and then for the organize them parties so that they will get executives at all levels and begin identify in a democratic way a flag bearer for leading to the elections. We get less than a year. Now, on the eve of these processes, they are being accused as terrorists, that their supporters have unleashed terror. They try to overthrow the government of Sierra Leone or government of Madabio. This is what the foreign minister told the international community today without an investigation, by showing just images of people who died. Find out, and he's basically divided the country into two, saying our supporters here are peaceful, the supporters of the opposition on this side are terrorists. And not a government of Sierra Leone should be a government that governs for everyone.
Yeah, and this is a dangerous trend, CHERNOH,
so
because
them,
the division continues.
For them, if you are not inhabiting the SLPP strongholds, you are a terrorist. You don't understand? You are a terrorist. You are not a Sierra Leonean. You are somebody. So anybody where they in the areas there where the protests happen, which are the incidents that happen, now people that way now they don't call as terrorists. And they say, but people that were in at the southeast, Bo, Puja, he named the places, say there was no incident. Then are good Sierra Leoneans.
I mean, that's tribal. That's division.
Yeah, that is ethno-regional. Ethno-regional division. This is what we talk about: the inability of the SLPP and Madabio and Nkadre from building the national cohesion, national consensus that has gotten us to where we are. And this is hatched now, an egg, a poisonous egg that was hatched right at the beginning of Madabio's capture of the SLPP. The SLPP constitution provided that if you contest, you lead the party to elections, you fail, you vacate. Instead, they introduced immediately after the elections of 2012 what they called Resolution 3. He refused to leave and became a de facto leader of the party. And young people and changed. In fact, the crisis what led to the production and formation of the embryonic movement that became the NGC. So now the process of division and nine lead them to State House, and they're not able to get no other way for govern other than a process of division as well. This is why I am calling people's attention repeatedly. Say we cannot allow other political parties to be undemocratized the way they are. They should not use the state or use the same politics of capture we Madabio do for dislodge other people from the political party SLPP. We lead them to State House. Forget the same thing for happen at APC, because we will have a situation 10 times more dangerous than we have under Madabio now. The people of Sierra Leone cannot afford to continue in this kind of polarized suffering for the next 10, 15 years. It will be disastrous.
Yeah, indeed. Like you say, poisonous egg. And I like the analogy the way you use, because eventually an egg will be hatched. And when that egg they hatch, it's full of poison, toxic, division, ethno-regional, tribalism. Yeah. Let me acknowledge some people and quickly on the platform. Let us see some comments them, which I believe will be both for and against. So we begin with Sister Hawana to be Tolly. It don't make no sense. Just lose poor innocent souls. Then, yes, you are right. Unfortunately, this is not politics. Kunku Motate, Alfred Peter Conte is doing a tremendous job in APC. Democracy must play in APC. Lonta, if it was controlled by Sambora, he will not be saying all this. People are taking notes there. Sequence Dumbuya is watching. Welcome, Sequence. Kate Akosua Nasrallah. President calling his people terrorists, and the wife initiated mob justice and barbecue of men genital parts. Yes, my sister, do remember this. Can you imagine? This was at the highest level of the state. going into the country's money for her personal spending and giving back talks to the masses who are not in support of their lawless act, and said a true Sierra Leonean are SLPP. Can you imagine? She's forgetting that most Sierra Leoneans do not care about SLPP. Most Sierra Leoneans do not care about SLPP. Can you imagine she's forgetting that most Sierra Leoneans do not care about SLPP, neither APC? All they want is a good medical facility, good basic human rights, price control, creation of jobs, respect of the. Yeah, I mean, I love this, Kate. Many thanks. I mean, you speak for the entire country on this one. People who would disagree, well, we will find a description. Kunku Motate, God bless Alfred Peter Conte, aka APC. Kunku Motate, Marabio must go out in 2023. Memuna to Munabari, sharing is showing that you are caring. Amen, amen. Thank you, Memuna too. Thank you so much for that, Memuna too. Sia Halley, it's the mentality of some people in Sierra Leone that each government must do 10 years. I've heard it myself. I think Chernoh addressed that, and as something we'll be not looking into. And we know say there's no merit in it, but very powerful people are promoting that particular narrative, and some people are buying it innocently. But of course, there's no merit to that at all. It simply isn't true. A candidate must have done a lot of good things for the people and therefore has a message when they take to the people. We will make the people decide on whether they for vote you back in or not. So when people be voting narrative then it's because they don't have a message. Margaret Kamara, Marabio must go. Margaret Kamara, worst president ever in Sierra Leone. SLPP, Tifi Tifi, Laminu Faika. You're calling Eastern Freetown, Makari, Maboraka as voices of the country. Shame on you. I wonder who did that. But again, these are part of the voice of the country. And there is a Laminu. There is a natural cause for people to be upset and express their feeling and opinion because things are not going well. There's a deepening crisis in the country, economic crisis, and as a consequence of the lack of financial discipline, this president come on the back of promising we many things. Among them, accountability, which he begin proper in 3 months. Every penny we they spend, they account for them. Every money we they generate, they account for them. Remember, executive order number 1, just in case. I know it's been like 4 long years, but we can always go back to the records. Thank you so much. I want that to be totally true talk, my dear. Baine Suma. Thanks to our patriot Chernoh. Baine Suma. He's been putting Salon first. Joseph Sivali. Mother must go where? By which means? You are actually fool and misguided. I agree by which means, not so by that means when they call for. It came through the ballot, and this is what we do here. We say we need to advocate any form of negativity in terms of violence. We believe in the ballot, not the bullet, not violence. Now, it make we try for educate the minds of we masses. So it has to be by the ballot, if I answer that question. Suleiman Kamara, Alfred Peter Conte is injecting slow poison that will kill many Sierra Leoneans. The only opposition party people are looking forward to replace this non-entity government is under siege. Edward Amara, Mr. Ba, your analysis of the protester that zero support for President Bill is shown by the strength of the protest is wrong. What can you say about areas where there was no protest? You guys are really confused. Edward, your intake are always interesting. You seem not for the listen and the follow, and you differ above that. You're talking about something which is orchestrated. And the narrative is now proven to be correct because that's exactly what the foreign minister is saying. That we people and largely in the southeast are quiet, and the people are supposedly waiting at the other area, them APC strongholds, including the eastern part of Freetown, which could be true. But the people that are there are not just APC. There are other people that belonging to other parties. And what are you supposed to look at? Come on, man. Is there not a crisis, a deepening crisis in the country? Financial, economical, social. There is poverty on the increase. And even the West Usa, you see, don't so. If it been they happen, they waiting they happen in Sierra Leone, you will have seen riots on the streets. It's happened before. The record shows that. But thank you for that contribution, Brother Amara. No love lost. Kunku Mutate, I totally know how our people are being mistreated, marginalized, tribalized. However, over 4 years of protest, nothing has changed. Let my people remain peaceful and register in huge number in September, October, and vote Bio out. Brother Kunku, good observation. But the problem here is, like CHERNOH say, the system is being manipulated against the people in collusion with the people and wait for help for make this dream come to reality. So when they use the state apparatus and tools for sideline or marginalize other people, and just like you say, what else can the people resort to? This is not a question for you and the rest of the people. Kate Akosua, the government should be held responsible for all the lost souls of yesterday's peaceful protests. Now, it make them for launch an investigation made up of independent people, just like CHERNOH say, forget to the bottom of this. Usumani Kamara Alfred Big Content does not even know what he's doing. He's just being misled by Ibrahim Bundu, trying to dictate every activity of the 21-man committee. He's an agent of Paupa, period. Pafode Kamara, Dr. Ba, and Mr. Kroma. It is rather unfortunate that the government police are still arresting people of Sierra Leone. We're still waiting for aiders from the international community. Kunku Motate really active on the platform. God bless Alfred Peter Conte. I mean, it's the same message you keep repeating. Once see something new. Alaji Shaka Kamara is watching. Kunku Motate, he's always defending and advocating for Samora. Who is always advocating and defending for Samora? Come on, man. At least get half of a brain, Kunku. Now you've done the worst. Nobody here is a Samora fan, by the way. Let me make it clear to you. And listen to the analysis, brother. This is what the problem is, isn't it? Matu Hassan, Bio is playing a game with the APC. Dr. Samora case is also coming to an end. It was said 16 witnesses, now it's 14. By the end of this week, it will end waiting for judgment. Matu Hassan, your evil plans will not work. APCians are not stupid like you guys. Rah, 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 rah. Kunku Mutate, Matu Hassan, Samora Party, kinds get off my comment. Okay, una go easy, please. Alex Smith Media House, Alfred Peter Conte is corrupt to the core. Pafuri Kamara, Alfred Peter Conte is being tendered by the present regime to disturb the normal activities of the APC. But trust me, Alfred is going to fail through this. Rah, 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 rah. Kunku, come on. Matu, let me jump over. Abdul Paul Kamara, thanks for the truth. Delvin Thomas, good afternoon all. Yeah, Bangalore. How are you, sir? Fatma Tasi say you are on point, Mr. Ba. Kunku Motate. Go drink soda water or kush then cause. Come on, man. Kunku. Pafode Koroma, may the Spirit of God continue to guide and protect you, Dr. Ba. He's not doctor yet, by the way. Matu Hassan. OSLPP killing thief on lawful arrest, beating Yahoo. Okay. The government don't even care about the citizen. Somebody. Alex Smith Media House. This is SLPP government is a textbook example of everything that is wrong with Africa. I look for some question for CHERNOH. CHERNOH S. Barry, our country is sick with bad politicians. Kanu Aliu. It will surprise you to know that in Kenema, they don't rent houses to Timni people, according to Dr. Sandy. Fatmata says, Alfred P. Don't. Okay. Sekou John Barry, I am here watching. Hey, my senior admin, Sekou, how are you? Janet Savage, listening and watching. Hi, Janet. Alex Smith Media House. Unfortunately, politics in Sierra Leone under this current government is driven by ethnicity and ethnic cultism. Grow Sierra Leone. CHERNOH, you are wonderful. Why is the president always out on duty when things happen behind him? That's coincidence. Sekou John Barry. David Francis is a dangerous man. He's repeating what he did with his GTT-led report. Many thanks, Sekou. Fatmata Sise, Alfred P. Conte is a poison to APC. Ibrahim Sise, happening. Continue to confirm my thoughts that it seems we don't have the capacity to govern ourselves. Fode Sharif, Robert Cabo, kick Manabio out of power, fail the people of Sierra Leone. Nana Jabi, Bio must go. Jalo Misbao, Mother Bio must go if he cannot control his wife. How can he control 7 million people? That's really profound. Eugenie McDowell. Well done, my brothers, for sharing with us. God will bless your keep up the good work and keep speaking the truth. Usmani Kamara, people have a right to belong. Absolutely. Alhaji Suleiman, why be you disturbing the opposition to going on and select their flag bearer? Usman Kamara, brother, keep it up. You guys are doing a very good job. Mamadou Touré, the government is always blaming the opposition for their fall short. Stop the blame game. Grow up Sierra Leone, Fatmata Sisi. I wanted to tell you so. That's why I see no sense in this protest. Be just less than a year to vote. Whosoever we wanted. Yeah, CHERNOH. I mean, the thing continued. There's a lot of comments and time they go. But I'll just end on waiting the sister say and let we hear you view. But if you can do a short, and then I get one question for ask you before we wrap up the program. We got like 10 minutes for wrap up the program. Of course, there's a necessity for protest, but the timing, do you see it appropriate? Because elections is just around the corner. And it goes back to the bottom of this as if we want to subscribe to some conspiracy theory that it will benefit some, but not for the greater cause, because it's elections that people are focused on if they want Madabio to really go. And if the protest is not spontaneous, then sure enough, it must have been organized by people we want for it turn out for be so. Your thoughts, sir?
No, I think I will not add anything to that other than saying I posted this self, in fact, on my Facebook page a day before or 2 days before that. We have less than a year to the election. Opposition parties or anybody concerned should be preparing for the elections, and there is every the possibility for defeat Madabio is more than 100% in an election. He knows that. And that's not the thing. And I also indicate, say, anybody with the time for do protest as the way them they talk, you could just provide the opportunity for the government for use that as a pretext for shift to the electoral calendar. And now this don't disrupt electoral activity. You see the government now is accusing even the opposition politicians as being behind it. Curfew on the how are you going to have a normal electoral activity?
Yes.
You don't understand.
And you talk about the shifting of the political calendar as well.
Now that's not the thing. Like I say, protests are good, but protests should happen as a way to advance people's determination and struggle for it, not to hurt it. And in this case, the government, the state is using it to carry out their own clampdown,
Yeah, exactly. And Chairman, that leads me to my next question. And if you can round up the program as well, which is, are we going to see, because again, it seems like if it was a textbook, a playbook, then we get for turn to the pages them and we can guess exactly or almost exactly what thing get for happen. And I think say you don't intimate that already, which is the protest has hurt the opposition and other people. Okay? Suffice me to say that in the sense that the really gains them where they make or where they go intend for make. It's now been reversed because we're going to see the draconian nature of government. Where they go use the law now based on waiting happen. So for begin for reverse certain things them, which is, are we going to see the rounding up of politicians them and the silencing of political voices of dissent? So basically, the question to you for end this program is, what are your expectations? What's going to play out within the next year period of time leading to elections?
No, the government don't indicate that, because by calling embassies and trying for show, say the events are terroristic event, now an attempt for draw an analogy between what happened in January 6th in the US, on January 6th in the US, and what happened at Saloon, basically to provide a justification for any other state repressive action in the name of fighting terrorism. So I think, say, the question should be, what are we going to do as citizens in the face of this obvious rollback democracy? We have to take actions, peaceful actions. Like I said, I will initiate a letter writing campaign where I will call on people all over the world to send letters directly to the president to stop him in this ongoing effort for using institutions and for violate democratic space. So we need free and fair elections. People should be given the opportunity to participate in elections freely, either as candidates or as voters. And voters must have the opportunity to have their own candidates on the ballot. Nobody should use state institutions or unfair methods for disqualify other contenders in the election or other participants in the election, because they fear, say, the participation of such individuals in the election will not be favorable to their own effort to remain in office. And that is what Madabio and his allies have shown to us. They are willing to put the country at risk, just for get Madabio continue in office. It's our right and responsibility as citizens for prevent that from happening. We've been doing that excellently. We could not allow the gains that have been made in these 4 years for build the national consciousness and national effort for democratically change a government that people have become dissatisfied with, from being taken over or hijacked by rogue elements in the political landscape. So that is the work. That's all I want for. And I want to thank everybody for paying attention, listening, participating in the conversation. And I want to thank you also for the opportunity for getting this conversation. Our heart still goes out to family members of those who have lost, who have died, and we continue to pray for them and continue to send condolences. And we hope the government would, in the spirit of national cohesion, would institute an independent panel for investigate the call, not just the call, but a good for me, because if they begin to clamp down, it's going to the real protest we will really take them out will happen, and we don't want that, because this is how when problems happen, you try for, say, the marginalized people and more, you get the unexpected. So this, and we don't want that. Our people have suffered too much. We not for add the suffering of the people. We not for prolong the suffering of the people in pursuit of selfish political ambitions. It's unfair to the people of Sierra Leone. So thank you.
Yeah, Chair, we can't say thank you enough, but of course, tomorrow again, Fambul, and just a quick reminder, CHERNOH Alpha Mba, one of the editors of the Africanist Press, will be on the platform again today. Like I say, we effort at educating we masses. It has to be sustainable. The energy where they drive we, enough for drain out at all. So we don't end this program. Una go drink water, una prepare for tomorrow, because there will be even more revelations. And this is not the flyer for tomorrow, where una go soon see all over the world the eroding of democracy, and we're going to be talking about a host of issues, including the protests, but we'll fast track them to other issues as well, such as the NIN, the registration process. Again, the All People's Congress Party, we're supposed to pose a challenge to the government. I want to use the opportunity once more for express this platform's deepest condolences to the families that we lost loved ones yesterday. We not entertain, neither encourage violence in any shape or form, but we must emphasize that we believe in the right of the people for protest. Like we guessed earlier on, say, what in protest can do, it can help for open up the space, because government for listen, waiting them people there get for say, what is it? Because it can give you a moment of soul searching, yeah, or an inner ability for reflect, yeah, and inflection time and reflection time. What is it? Because that can help you for shape policies them which will be of some benefit to you people. But when you people then jump out on the street en masse, and then you are promoting a narrative, say it's them and us, as a government, we find that deeply alarming, deeply irresponsible, and our eyes and ears for open within the next coming days and weeks as we see exactly what the government will do, because there will be telltale signs on the issue of sincerity. Because if you want to conduct an investigation of that kind there, because this is national, remember, you get for form a committee which is made up of independent people, and we can't say there are not many. So even if people are tied up to something, but you take a piece of every one of them and lump them together, let them have those disagreements, because maybe the truth in itself will come out from whatever investigation that will be held. But it should not be tied to a rogue set of people where the interests lie somewhere where the interests of the people are asking for the investigation. In this case, the government, it not go good at all. The division has already started. It's them and us. Now APC and now they no more than whole thing there. Not Sierra Leoneans. APC them. So instead of soul searching and reconciling with the fact, say this na it happened, to the memory of the dead, we need to see why this happened. Not begin for trade accusations and continue for drive the divide. When you continue for do so, the only reasonable logic where you can extrapolate from there is there is an agenda. And I'm not saying that there is. I'm just saying based on waiting, we don't begin the year. Why this division at this time bordered on political, where this now be a national thing. And the approach to this particular issue, it go show boku boku thing, it go reveal boku boku things. We need for keep an eye out. We need for keep our ears out. We need for be concerted in we effort. We're not taking sides. We're just saying, let us be Sierra Leonean. Not forget for tuning to the platform tomorrow. Watch out for the flyer. It will be out very, very soon. Again, this has been the TNN TV Media Empire, your friendly news outlet. Usai would encourage everybody, if you want for partake, send us a message. With details are all on social media. We are content producers, content makers. Una not forget for like or follow this page. And by the way, I want to congratulate this page because we are doing well. The numbers are increasing very fast. We're getting 60 to 100 likes a day or following a day. Una also not forget, we get the YouTube channel, which the subscribership is growing and growing very well. But we ask for let una continue for subscribe and don't just do it alone. Encourage a friend and another friend for do the same. Okay? Not forget for hit the notification bell on we YouTube dedicated channel. By so doing, it encourage you for let you get notification anytime we go live for bring programs which we believe are sound and educative for the mind. It's been a TNN production. I've been your host, Prince Emil Kroma. Watch again tomorrow. I will be back with CHERNOH Alpha Ember of the Africanist Press. Thank you and goodbye.